So let's look at some success cases where we've actually used this approach in the real world. This one, we'll actually look at this model in the course itself. This concerns travel vaccines. These are the vaccines people get when they're going to exotic parts of the world and might catch horrible diseases. This particular company, it's a division of GlaxoSmithKline, dominated this seasonal market with the only licensed product. So this is the chart here is looking at the seasonal peak of sales that the company would expect to see. The problem is that a major rival product has just been approved, and the competitor sales force will go around our physicians and they will try and take those customers away from us in a very short period of time, and they will do so by charging a lower price. And the fear for my friend who has this problem is that the company will likely lose 80% of its product revenue over the peak season of sales, and this one product accounts for 30% of his division's cash flow. So this is a really serious strategic threat, even though it's only playing out over 15 weeks. What do? We sketched out the kind of relationships on the whiteboard in an afternoon in my office to figure out what a counter plan might look like. We built a model of just right dynamic pricing to give John a chance of actually defeating this attack. And the model also showed the likely effect of tactics that he could use to undermine the rival's product credibility and damage the morale of their sales force. Now, he was all going to lose something in this situation. It wasn't going to be a case of being able to keep all of his sales, but he managed to keep that loss to less than 20% of the sales that he would otherwise have achieved. And this was really fast, and we did this in an afternoon. And John took the model away and continued to use it through the 15 weeks of the competitor's product launch. Here's another challenge. This is a consumer bank starting a popular new business. This is actually providing expatriate banking services for people who've gone and lived in sunnier countries than they come from, but still want to use the bank from their home country. And it's been doing okay for the last 2 years. It has future plans to grow the profits, and this looks really pretty good. It's going to more than double profits over the next 2 to 3 years. But when we put the plan together and the model together of this and figured out what might be achievable, we figured there was much more potential and we could achieve it much faster than the bank's current plans would allow. The model allowed the general manager whose project this was to justify large increases in staffing and growth of the service, to roll it out faster, and a threefold multiplication in the rise in profits that could be achieved over 3 years. And I helped the general manager with this model. They worked on it part-time, a few hours here and there, over about a month. That's the kind of effort that was required to put this together. Here's a very different kind of challenge. This is an investment company looking after people's pension funds, and they are in serious trouble. They're facing closure, in fact, following a downturn in the investment market and following some mistakes that they made during their strategy prior to the downturn in the market. Now, their response to this, typical of companies facing this kind of thing, they announce across the board cuts. Everybody's budget's cut by 20%. Now, that's never going to be the right answer for turning around this kind of situation. And the other reaction was to cancel a multi-million pound investment in IT systems, essential for the future of the business, but that was going to be canned. Now, in spite of those actions, it was likely that they would still continue with 2 years or more of losses from this business. What we did here was we mapped and modelled the business with the senior team. We identified serious overexpansion in the business. They had launched too many products, they had gone to too many distributors, they were selling to people who weren't investing much money, they had far too many people involved supporting all of these overextended resources in the business. So a focus cutback of something like 40% of the size of the business allowed them to return to profit really much faster, but crucially put the system back into a state where it would be capable of starting to grow again rather sooner. Here's another case. This is in the bulk chemicals industry, facing a serious sales decline because of a rather troublesome competitor they were dealing with. But there was a way that we're able to turn that sales decline around and get it to grow again. This is a functional-specific challenge. This is an aerospace business who's losing some of their top technical specialists to the finance industry, and this kind of level of turnover is very damaging to a company of this kind. They really need the experience that comes from these skilled people staying with them for many years, and a dynamic model showed how it was possible to change the way in which people were hired and developed and recruited and rewarded to radically reduce the turnover of those staff. There's a few more examples. This heating equipment distributor was facing a maturing market, but rather than kind of go down with everybody else as the market saturates and sales slow down, he was able to help his competitors fail rather more quickly and pick up business from their failures. In the power distribution industry, there's been a long-term decline in equipment reliability as companies have desperately tried to keep generating cash flow. And this case allowed us to reverse that long-term fall in reliability while still maintaining acceptable cash flow rates from the business. We will actually look at this case. It's a slightly different example of a new tech startup than the Allen Analyst problem we looked at earlier. But this one too is all about accelerating market penetration for a new technology product in the Internet of Things industry, the IoT sector as it's known. The method works perfectly well in public services and non-profit cases as well. This example looked at anticipated large-scale staff shortages in nursing, and this corporate law firm was really trying to kind of productize its services and hire different kinds of lawyers to support the rollout of these new services. In general, though, we are always looking at three common questions. The first is, why have we got to here? Why has performance been what it has been? And that's important for two reasons. First, it tells us how the system actually works. We need to get the model to replicate reality. If we don't do that, then our model is not reliably reflecting what's happening in the real world. The second reason we need history is that things that have already happened in the past are already affecting what will happen in the future, and we need to track the trajectory of those past decisions and past events that will be affecting our future. We then go on to the second question, which is where performance might be going if we carry on as we are with business as usual. And of course, what we really want to figure out is how to improve that future and get a better result out of it. So those three questions are generic in many cases. The only exceptions are where we're looking at new ventures or new initiatives or new issues where we don't actually have any history. So we're kind of starting at the now point on this chart. But we still want to answer the second two questions. Where might performance go with the plans we currently have, and how might we get better results in the future?